about curb appeal. First want to ask, how many of you are in retail stores that are under 5,000 square feet, more boutique-y? Okay, so anyone over 20,000 square feet? Oh, okay, no? So today is going to be kind of a whirlwind tour of everything that you have to think about when it comes to curb appeal. And I've been a commercial interior designer for over 30 years, and I do a lot of research in consumer behavior and environmental psychology, so I know how to manipulate people to see stuff and look at stuff and read things and buy things. So today, when you think about your storefront, it's way more than just the facade. And it's going to be, we're going to talk about 12 different elements that you have to audit on your existing storefront. And what I want you to think about when you're auditing all 12 items is, one, are the items reflecting your brand? Do they attract attention? And do they motivate people to come into your store? And if they don't do one of those three things, then maybe you don't need it. Because there's also such a thing as being, having too much stuff that people don't see anything and you become sort of a drive-by. Consumers will form their first impression and make a judgment about who they think you are, what kind of business you are, what kind of business owner you are, based on what they see by your storefront. And even though this isn't about website design today, I just want to quickly say that sometimes people will look at your website before they even come and drive by your store. So make sure you have pictures of your storefront on your website. People, when they go there, a lot of times I go to websites and I don't even see a storefront or the interior. I want to know what this space is like. It needs to lure me in even on your website. Make sure you take nice pictures of your storefront and put it on your website. Okay, so they're going to form, this isn't a case where you can judge a book by its cover when it comes to your storefront. And curb appeal accounts for 70% of first-time sales. So you want to make sure you're doing it right. So when I say it's more than just your exterior building facade, it's also maybe a monument sign that's near the street. It's your parking lot if you have one. It's landscape areas, it's your lot lighting, it's outdoor displays, it's decorative amenities. It's everything that encompasses what someone sees when they're driving by. And over 85% of our purchase decisions are made with our right brain. And our right brain represents the emotional side of our brain. So we want to make sure that you're actually making an emotional connection with the customer before they even come through your front door. We need to emotionally engage with them as they're driving by. And people will emotionally connect with the business before they enter a store if they see, one, a really good logo or a fun logo or a fun tagline, if there's a really obviously well-designed exterior, easy to read signs, bountiful outdoor displays, and fun window displays. It is amazing how if you make someone smile, you give them some simple information that just makes them feel better, or their life could be better because they buy something. If you can get that connection right away when someone's, before they walk in your store, you've already primed them to be in a better place and to want to buy something. So we want to make a positive emotional connection with the business, with your business. And they're more likely to remember it. And the other thing you want to think about is everything you put out there, you want to think about who you're selling to. So, your brand and your market obviously have to work together. You are trying to attract a specific target market that likes your brand. You're communicating that brand to them. They understand it, they get it, they want more of it, they want to buy into your brand. So understanding who your buyer is, how they like to buy, how much they like to spend, and even things like where do they vacation, what kind of vehicles do they drive, what kind of businesses do they have, or what do they do for a living. All that, you're trying to emotionally connect with that target market. So all of your decisions about messaging, signage, colors, textures, think, you want your brand, your target market. So first, before I get through my slides, I want to have you just ask yourself, you don't have to say anything out loud, How would you rate the current look, style, and condition of your storefront based on all the items I just said that you have to think about? So do you think, wow, it's excellent, or it's okay, but maybe needs a little updating? Fair, but definitely needs updating, or poor, you've been waiting to do something and waiting to listen to someone like me tell you what to do. And then we'll have you evaluate it again at the end of the presentation. So if you have a front, side, or back entrances, the following list of these 12 items that you're going to audit have to apply to all of those entrances. So if a customer is coming in multiple different places into your center, they all have to, you have to address all of these items. And I want you to think about how someone sees something from a distance. So I'm driving down the street and maybe I see that monument sign, or maybe I see some parking lot landscaping, or maybe I see the storefront itself. But what does that look like? How are you capturing my attention? And then as I drive in, or I pull up to the curb, again, what am I looking at? What's at eye level? So think about all these things that you're auditing from different points along the way. So the first item is your street sign. And this may not be the sign that's on your storefront. It could be, like I said, a pylon sign, a monument sign, something on the road. And we want to say, is it large enough? Is it bright enough? Is it illuminated at night? Is it legible? Is it branded well? Maybe should there be an area for a changing message? So think about those things with your larger sign that's not attached to your building. And what do you want to have on that? Do you want to have hours? Do you want a website? Do you want just the brand? Do you want a tagline? What do you need to include on that to reflect your brand and appeal to your target market? And you probably all, being in the industry for so long, have heard this phrase, but I just love it. Spring is here, we got so excited, we wet our plants. So sometimes, again, that emotional connection can just be making someone laugh or smile. And think about nighttime lighting. A lot of times, I know you do a lot of your business during the summer hours, so you might be open when it's still light out. But if you have a good holiday season, we want to make sure that you're well lit during the winter months. So the second thing you want to audit is your parking lot. And if you don't have a parking lot, then you want to think about the parking on the street that you have, either in the front of the building or maybe in the back of the building. Is it large enough? Is it well marked, well maintained? Are there places for loading up, places for pickup, illuminated at night? And the path, sometimes a path from where someone parks to get to the store or multiple entrances is also important. So think about ways to make it exciting, different, pretty. How are we getting people from point A to point B? That journey, you have an opportunity to, again, make someone smile, give them some information. So think about how you can maybe decorate a path or paint the floor or put a stone path in one area. Make it different, make it exciting. You're starting to engage people. And again, evening illumination. What do things look like at night? You should audit your storefront during the day and at night. So the third thing is landscaping. So you guys should get this hands down. It should be like, you all should get A+ in this. And it's, really, is it starting out in that street front sign? Is it along the path and in the parking lot? How are you landscaping that entire journey before someone gets into your store? You have to already prime them to start thinking about greenery and plants and flowers and home decor, outside decor, seasonal items, water features. Make it as inviting as possible. Even if you can do something up above, if you do have more of a boutique type store, bring the store out onto the sidewalk if you can. So the more someone can get engaged with the living elements that you sell, the better. Maybe it's making an outdoor display that's similar. This could be in a window, but could also be outdoor if you have the space. And maybe there's signature pieces that you want to put out, things that have movement or water are illuminated at night. Again, this sort of tactile, energetic, and movement, these are the things that emotionally engage people. We don't want flat and boring. We're very visual people. You are in a very visual, almost /fashion field, and it's important to create that environment outside before someone even enters. Then the style or the shape of the building. So, is your brand modern or is it historic? We have a client, Rendell and Orchards, they've been around 150 years. and they've got these outbuildings, and we've used a lot of parts and pieces from inside the buildings to create really cool outdoor displays. But maybe it's a warehousing type thing. It has to be whatever that building is, the style needs to, again, reflect your brand, communicate to your target market, reflect what you sell. So, can you tell me from these facades, is there anything brand memorable or emotionally engaged? Again, style and shape, and sometimes you don't have the money to build a big space like this. But even if you had a little cupola you could put on the top of the building, or what are the little elements that you could just add to make it a little more visually interesting? So again, just the shape, how shape can make a difference. And materials too, that's the next item, but some of these are also kind of can be used to look at the materials that are making engagement. And then, I'm going to have another picture too, but I love how this frames the entrance. I mean, it really makes sort of the entrance itself pretty grand. And if you don't do anything and you have like your front doors, the doors themselves are the typical just glass with a metal push and pull, well then maybe you can do something around the regular door if you can't change the door itself to make that more exciting. And we'll talk about doors in a minute. So, fifth thing you want to audit are the materials that are making up your facade. Again, how does it reflect your brand or the products that you're selling? And it might be some metal siding. And I also love this as an example just for a great outdoor, or a great sign on the building, which we'll be looking at other examples in a minute. It might be metal or wood and a lot of glass, and on the right it's painted brick. But you can see how materials can set kind of a mood and get you actually engaged to the different types of boutique businesses that might be inside. Again, just texture, color, paint. So paint's pretty cheap, and if you can create some great sort of brand enhancement just by using paint, fabulous. Look at the green painter over on the right. That's just a really simple, basic shape, but with that kind of green, little almost teardrop there, it brings life to that particular storefront. And paint can also be used in other manners. So I work all over the country, I work a lot of downtown main streets, and I see oftentimes up in the upper left these sides of buildings or back sides of buildings where maybe people are paying attention to the storefront, but the sides and the back, they don't. So I always say, well, get some paint. If you don't have a muralist that can come into town and do a mural for you, but then maybe you get kids to just paint a fence with some color. This in the upper right is a coffee shop in Holland, Michigan, and they're not on the main street, but that mural of the floral flowers has become like a landmark in town, and people now use it. They say, oh, I'm 2 blocks from the flower mural. And there's not even color in that. That's just like a sepia tones, but it adds so much light. So if you have the ability to take empty sides of buildings or a fence or something and just add color, it can make a difference. Okay, item number 6, storefront signage. So this is the sign that's going to be actually on your building. And there are usually 3, and signs, I'm going to talk a lot about signs. And actually I'm speaking tomorrow also about interior signage and lighting and color. But on the outside, there's a lot of opportunity to use signs. But if we put too many signs out, it's sign pollution and no one will read any of them. So we have to be very specific on the types of signs we put out and how they are designed and how they're laid out and how many words we use. So but I'm just now starting with the outside sign on the door, on the storefront, sorry. So we might have one by the street, and then we have one on the store front itself. So it might be hanging, it might be protruding off, it might be part of an awning. It should be illuminated if possible, again, for nighttime visibility. But again, kind of generic. Where's the brand here? There's so many opportunities to really brand with a sign, with the material, the size, what the name sounds like. Again, I like that we have sort of a graphic above, very easy to read, color coordinated with the awning stripes. Again, with the great use of paint, simple materials, but it has shape. You know, we've got the little peak, and then we've got the circle. It's easy to read. It's kind of what I would say memorable. And maybe it's a funky little boutique kind of farm stand on the side road somewhere, but people would remember this and say, oh my gosh, I've been by that place, or I know that place. Okay, so the second level of signage would be window signs. So this is actually on glass. And I often like to have you list your products and services, because oftentimes I'll ask a retailer, so I see what you sell, but what else might you do? And they'll say, oh, well, we custom order, we ship, we wrap, we'll do consultations, we'll come to your place. And I said, well, I had no idea. There's no sign anywhere. So I always say, let's get those lists on the glass somewhere. If you do things you don't think people know what you do. And do it in lighter color or white vinyl. If you do dark colors, it's really hard to see and read. So try to use white or a light color. Use one of your brand fonts. I don't want to see, your like 6 different types of fonts and sizes and colors. You want to be as clean as possible and coordinate with your brand, because then people will read the signs. And maybe it's just, again, making an emotional connection with a phrase like, plants make people happy. Or again, sometimes people will put their actual storefront sign on the window if they feel it's large enough. Now I have to be careful with this though, because sometimes if it's too low and their car's parked in front, people aren't going to see that sign. So you really do need to have something up a little bit higher. And then don't be afraid to use an open sign. There are some tacky open signs, but I think there are also some fun ways to use the fact or tell people you're open, especially if you're in a building that has tinted windows. Because if you have tinted windows, sometimes people can't tell if you're open at all. It's so dark inside. Okay, the next level of storefront signage would be on your door itself. So the door, when people open the door, even though I have one that's showing on the window. But I basically like to have the logo, the store hours, your website, and maybe your social media icons, if you can fit that all on a door. If you have double doors, that's even easier. If not, sometimes some of it has to go onto the window. But it's, again, for walk-by traffic. So if you're on like a main street and there's a sidewalk there, this isn't so much for the large stores where you're pulling up in a parking lot. But if you're walking by, I don't want to step back and look up and see what the store is. I want to be able to see it right there, on the door or on the window. And if you're not open, I want to see a website or a QR code that I could easily go to your website and then figure out what I need to know about, they are going to be open on Sunday if you didn't have your hours open. Hopefully you would. But it's good to invite people to visit your website when you're not open. And please, no Scotch tape. No Scotch tape. No Scotch tape. Like 95% of the stores I visit use Scotch tape. And, then the stuff's starting to rip a little bit, or the stuff's curling or fading, or it's crooked. And so there are, and tomorrow I'll bring a sign holder with me, but there are sign holders with suction cups. We also use static cling. So we have a roll of clear static cling vinyl, and you can cut it to any shape you want. And you basically put your piece of paper, your sign up, and then you just do the static cling over it. It's really nice and clean and simple. And if you have community posters, which I'm all for supporting community events, to create one area in your window where you're going to maybe put 4 community posters. And when that's full, you just say to the community, I'm sorry, we've got our 4 up already. Because, again, be careful. If you put too many signs in and they don't look good and they're not professional and they're handwritten and they're Scotch taped up, it's a bad reflection on your business. Sorry, you can tell that's a hot point. Okay, another level of signage would be promotional signs. So, again, we have to be careful with how many we put out, but sometimes a simple sandwich board can be good. Or like and it's okay to do sort of a hand chalk thing if you're in sort of a funky brand and it's kind of all crafty and homemade sort of things. Every once in a while it's okay to use that kind of a handwritten thing. But, maybe it's if you're in a big store, you have pickup areas or drop-offs or whatever you might have to sign. And I talked about not having too many words, but I did find this about, like sometimes if you have enough space outside where people are meandering around and you have focal points and places where you want them to sit for a minute or stand for a minute, like talking about a green roof, I like that particular sign. Or having signs with pictures that will help get people into different departments that are outside. A lot of times, your garden centers, literally the outside is as big as the inside if you are selling a lot of different products outside. So you have to sign those areas and get people to move from point A to point B. So focal points and signs and paths, traffic aisles are very important. And I have to thank Jerry Schmidt with Stein Garden and Home for some of these photos that I kind of stole from him. I worked with Stein Garden and Home in the past for quite a few years. So again, wayfinding signs. I kind of consider this sort of under kind of promotional signs, but you're trying to get people to go down certain outdoor aisles. So again, we're bringing the outside, or the inside out. We have to look at how people shop outside. So this is all part, to me, of curb appeal. Because sometimes you can see this from the street or the parking lot. So how are we getting people in there? And are you having maybe signs high enough so they can see it? If you've got maybe some greenhouses or something where people have to see to get some bright colors, simple fonts, should be in your brand font, maybe a photo. And again, even signs that tell people where to go to get information, if it's an outdoor little gazebo or something, or a trellis that has information for an outdoor checkout or a custom design place. We have to make sure we tell people how to get places and where things are. If you have a cafe, how are you signing the cafe to get people around to that entrance? Okay, number 7, window displays. So, a lot of people say, well, we're set so far back from the street, we've got a big parking lot in front, so people don't really shop, do window shopping. I say, that's fine, I get it, you don't have pedestrians coming by, but you might have a car on the street on the other, so you've got the street, you've got a parking lot, you've got the building, and depending on how fast those cars are going, whether it's 35 miles an hour or 55 miles an hour, if you're on a county highway or something, but still, could you not put maybe some beautiful, huge, oversized vinyl sunflowers or something in the window? Anything to, again, attract attention to the building. Especially if your building facade is kind of boring, then we really need to make those windows pop. And I always say, window displays should be conversation worthy. They should be attention getting and get people to go, oh my gosh, did you see what they did in their windows? So we just made these upside down, oversized tulips out of paper. And then the stems were actually pool noodles. But sometimes it's just a matter of taking some simple materials, oversizing an object, and maybe hanging it upside down just to attract attention. And again, think about light colors. Light colors are always the thing that's going to show up more than the dark colors. So even having that white backdrop on the trellis board, that helps pop the colors in front of it. But make them simple, clean. We like, creating, I could do literally 8 hours just on creating window displays. I'm just trying to give you some easy ideas with some backdrops, with this fabric, foam core, pedestals, things that are really simple but very attention-getting. And we also like to layer things, so we like to put vinyl on the windows and then have product and then a backdrop. So here we have kites and clouds, and there we took actually the boxes from this particular retailer and made an entire garden with the boxes looking like the flower heads and then watering cans. I love this one of the bees and the honey. Again, very simple, but attention-getting, and taking little LED lights coming out of a watering can. Again, a little more boutique-y, maybe more for the pedestrian walking by kind of windows. Taking furniture and a bed or a couch and filling it with plants. Anthropology, I love them. I love them for display ideas. The way they do things is fabulous. But even if you do sell some apparel, well, then why not have a mannequin in your window? A lot of garden centers are doing home decor and apparel these days. It's not just the plants. But again, look at the bright colors and how they pop. I wish they had a little more light shining down onto that one on the right for nighttime. And tomorrow, if you do come to my presentation at 4, I will actually be bringing in 3 different types of spotlights so you can see the difference between the ones that you buy at Home Depot. Shame on you, they're really, really bad. You don't get anything out of it. It's like 650 lumens versus a par 30 and a par 38 where you get up to like 1200 lumens, and it makes such a difference. I mean, you will sell more product with the right kind of lighting. I just threw this one in because it's like, I don't know what they're selling. I mean, they're selling shoes, but it's a visual mishmash. I'm hoping you can see sort of the difference between simplicity and just throwing a bunch of stuff in a window and not lighting it very well. And maybe it's just taking one object and repeating it. That's what anthropology is known for. And then the color red, even though I say I like light colors, they really make a difference, but the color red, when you have a ton of it and you well illuminate red, it is powerful. It is very attention-getting. But just taking something and repeating it can be a fun window. And this is hard to see, but there's a woman who's monogramming in the window. Anytime we can have movement in your storefront, so if you've got someone come be doing flower arrangements in the window or making pots, whatever you want, if you can get one of your staff who actually does something that would be interesting to look at, bring them outside, put them at a counter and have them making things, or in the window. And if you have a really strong brand with a strong color and a strong bag maybe, or look of something, take the bag, enlarge it, make it hard, and fill it with a bunch of flowers and have that as a year-round display. You just keep changing out what's in it. But that's like a 3-foot by 30-inch high wood bag that represents that particular retailer's branded bag. And vinyl is your friend. Again, this is what I'm saying. If it's drive-by is 55 miles an hour, but hey, if I see some vinyl and it's like a big tree, that's that green tree, and maybe there's just something cool to look at and engage me, or some vinyl flowers, that is attention getting. Again, it's something that's simple and clean and quick. Just could be oversized graphics all the way across windows. And some of these can be static clings, so you can take them down if it's seasonal, roll them up, and then reuse them next year. It costs more, but it's kind of a one-time investment then. And anytime you can do some movement with videos, particularly at night, it's kind of fun to have the videos running, or even an interactive screen if you're on a main street. That's always good to think about. Okay, number 8, lighting, illumination. I talked a little bit about making sure your window displays are lit. Your window displays should be lit 3 times brighter than the other ambient light in your store. And the storefront itself should be well illuminated. You want people to see the store, the shape of the store, the texture of the store. Even if you're closed at 6, but there's activity on the road until 11, put the lights on a timer. It's great advertising. And then decorative types of lights. Again, if you've got some paths outdoors where people can be walking at night, are there ways to illuminate them decoratively? And this I just threw in because it's like such a crazy greenhouse over in Europe. But also movement with light. So you can change, if you have a projector, you could change out the message. It could be shown on your storefront. If you had a blank storefront at night, maybe you change out a message. It can be on the sidewalk. It could be on the driveway, on the parking lot. It can be movement with light. Okay, number 9, decorative accessories. Am I going too fast? Are you guys keeping up with me? No? Good. So 9 is decorative accessories. That means awnings, benches, tables, chairs, waste receptacles, flags, banners, water dishes for dogs, interactive kiosks, video screens. I kind of showed that in the windows. Sculptures, They all reflect your brand and make a statement. So instead of just putting, Adirondack chairs are fine, put them out there if you sell them. But let's be a little creative with some other ways for seating people. And just look at even second stories, how some second stories can be brought to life, whether it's just some little fencing or a flag. I love this rock, paper, scissors, where they have some three-dimensional elements. They have a canoe, half of a canoe on the second story of the outdoor outfitters store. And again, as I said in the beginning, the front door needs to be reflective, or all your entrances need to be fancy or branded or engaging, and they should have some similarity. So front and back of this la-da-da store. And they had also, which is movement, but if you can see the little pinwheels hanging in front of the window there, and then they had a banner or flag and photo pins. But anytime you have movement, you're going to get people's attention. And then, how are you showcasing your wow? What is your uniqueness factor? What makes it memorable? And these can be these decorative elements. That's an 8-foot fire hydrant. Granted, it's inside, but wouldn't it be fun to have that outside? Because it's made of materials that could be outside. It's a three-dimensional pig for the blind pig in a restaurant in Colorado. Or maybe there's some big deer statues, or it's an oversized butterfly that, again, kind of becomes the wow, it's an engagement 3D accessory. Maybe there's some interesting flags or banners. Maybe you're yarn wrapping some trees. Take some trunks of your trees and wrap them with yarn. People love that. They start touching them, they get engaged, or they start talking about. And again, now this is a little grandiose up there, but in Milwaukee, I don't know if you've seen this, but this is on Water Street, and this has been around for several decades, but everyone refers to it as the Ladybug Building. And also, Lakefront Brewery here in Milwaukee, we helped them develop, actually this is 72 stainless steel beer barrels that were wrapped with LED programmable lights. They won the Mayor's Art Award for outdoor art, but they can program to any color. So if they're having an event, particularly like, I think they did something like Prostate Days, and it was like all the colors. And if you've ever been to Denver, these are oversized, great, huge, big, this is their arena, three-dimensional accessories. So again, we can get pretty grandiose in how we look at things. Okay, got 10 minutes left, I'm on number 10. Products for sale. So again, I said earlier, you have your indoor, outdoor. You're like selling indoors, but you're also selling outdoors, particularly in the summer. So again, the signage, how things are merchandised, available traffic aisles, how they're signed, what kind of price tags do you have on them? Are you making it as easy as possible for them to find what they need? Setting up the departments, setting up maybe some furniture. Then number 11, aroma and music. So they make, for Wi-Fi speakers, they'll make it so that they're hidden in rocks. They can just be hanging from a porch trellis. And you can get speakers hidden in a lot of places and have music. And studies have shown that, first of all, over 90% of the brain becomes active when people listen to music. Over 90% of people say they prefer to have music when they're shopping. And going back to the target market, you want to make sure you're picking the right music that your target market likes. And if you have a different target market during the week than you do on the weekends, then change your music up. And then also aromas. And I don't know if you've been into the exhibit hall yet, but I don't know if it's a vendor or if it's a center, but they've got cinnamon smell. You smell that cinnamon when you walk in. It's just, to me, it's fabulous. It's just a nice little thing. So even if you can get some aroma piped out in your store, or what I always like to do, particularly for inside stores, is say just get a little crock pot and throw in some herbs or put in some cinnamon sticks or something, plug it in for an hour or so, and then unplug it. But usually that's just a wonderful smell, especially in the fall. Okay, 12. So we're in the last two slides here. Your entrance door and your door handles. What is that door we're talking about? That's the first time someone's actually kind of interacting with the store and the building itself. So does it make a statement? And maybe it's just painting the door a certain color. Or maybe you have doors that are colorful, but they can stay open for most of the time. And if you have a double door, you can keep it open. More people will come into a space when the doors are open. And you probably know that, I mean, it's just common sense. But if you can, so a few days of the year that you're able to do that, do it. But make sure the doors are fun. Maybe there's some old French doors or some old barn doors, or people will talk about cool doors. Or like I said, if we have something over the entrance itself, even the doors themselves aren't great. But it sort of makes a grand entrance, points out where that door is. And then finally, what are the door handles like? Again, they've become conversation pieces. Why not have fun with them? That's, to me, a pretty inexpensive thing to do. And it becomes memorable and emotionally engaging. So, finally, make sure, and sometimes, you know what, I call it either the organization method, the subtraction method, or the cleanup method. Sometimes I come in and work with the retailers and I just have to do those three things. They don't have to buy anything. We just pull stuff off, clean things up, maintain things, and the place looks great. So sometimes it's hard when you're head down, busy, you're making orders, you've got staff issues, you're trying to deal with customers and inventory, blah, blah, blah. And you can't get to all these things that I talked about. Well, I say then do like five things a month or 5% a month or something. And after a year, you're going to get a lot done. And sometimes it's just maintenance, just picking up garbage and just making stuff look better. So bring life to your storefront, make your brand shine. We want to make that engaging, memorable exterior experience. And now I want you to think to yourself, how would you rate the current look, style, and condition of your storefront? Is it still excellent, fabulous? Is it still good, but could use a tune-up? Okay, not great, definitely needs an update. But never underestimate the power of a well-designed storefront. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left for questions. So does anyone have one? Yes, in the back.
What kind of music are you getting good feedback on these days? And I feel like we've tried 10 flavors of everything and it's really hard.
And it is a really tough question. I'm glad you asked it though. In fact, I just had a gentleman who has an indoor farmer's market call me and ask. But he's now on the higher end, like he's got higher prices. He's in a neighborhood that's a little bit higher scale. So jazz and classical were appropriate for him. But then he also has tours that come in that are older. So he also wanted to do like the music from the 60s and 70s. So it really depends on your target market. I do know that universally, more people like music that does not have vocals. So that's kind of how elevator music got started. If you remember Muzak way back when. But they kind of took it to this too much of a smooth jazz look feel. But if you can, if you have that baby boomer or even 50, 45 and above, they do like the 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s. But you can try and get it without the vocals. That's good. If you've got a younger market, then if you've got like a local university station that kind of can play some funkier stuff, like here we have UWM, we have MSOE, 2 different stations. And they've got some really interesting music. So it's tough, and sometimes you do have to experiment. And also the volume is really important, because if you're playing music and you're not hitting everyone with the right kind of music, and if it's too loud, that's when you turn people off. If it's lower, people will put up with music they don't necessarily like as much. But that it's a lot of studies have been done also on tempo and the pace. So if you want people to kind of hang around a little bit longer, you want that slower tempo, kind of common sense. If you want people in and out and moving, then we want more upbeat music. Any other questions?
Any suggestions for temporary storefronts?
Temporary storefronts, ooh, that's a good one. Oh, I didn't even think to put that in my slide. Well, I do know, like, when people set up here, the garden center set up at our NARI show, the home show at the state fairgrounds, what you have to do is take sort of your brand and a mini version of it. So, if people know your brand as being like a really log cabin structure or something, then you want to bring some log cabins that kind of, or just logs and bring that along. You know, if your color is teal and gray or something with a pop of yellow, we want to make sure we bring that along. And then signage would be important. I always just say, what are the things that people are going to recognize when it's not the permanent, but they say, oh, I saw that, I know that, that's so-and-so.
I mean, like, the whole business, every store is temporary. Like, it's not like we're setting up inside of it. I have greenhouses that are steel structures that are wrapped in plastic for 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, and then they go back.
Okay, but are they branded?
Yes, very long.
Okay, well, then you've probably already done a good job. Yeah.
When it comes to signage and fonts, do you have some thoughts on fonts that you're?
So people read upper and lower cases better than all upper, and also the non-serif. So the serif would be, it has a little bit of a curl to it, so the non-serif are also easier to read. Those would be my two. And if you do have brand fonts, generally you don't want more than 3. So like you'll have your logo, you might have a tagline, and you might have a secondary font. But they should also be similar and like in the same family. Yes.
Is there a magic size for like an outdoor sign that says roses? You know, it goes on weekly when it's like, hey, where are your roses? And they're standing right next to them.
Well, you're always going to get that. People will say, too, where's your restroom? And literally they're standing right under the restroom sign. So there are some people that just happens. I mean, for indoor signage or window signage, we have in our office, you know, all the different sizes of lettering, so we can kind of know. But from an outdoor perspective, that's really more, I would have like someone hold signs up and then go however far you need them to see it and say, is this big enough? But also it's contrast. Sometimes it's not even size as much as color contrast for the letters against the background. So, you know, if you have red against white or yellow against black or something, you know, that's going to be more attention getting. And it's also what's around it. So if there's more negative space around it, then you're going to see that sign. But if it's with a lot of other graphics and signs and colors and stuff, then it's not going to be as noticeable. You know, it's just kind of, again, a common sense when you think about how you're trying to get a focal point and someone really to look at something. We'll get rid of the garbage around it.
Is the slideshow going to be available for reference later?
Generally not, but I can do a shortened version, like an abbreviated version with at least the text and some of the photos. So if you bring up a card, I could send that to you. So how are y'all feeling about your storefronts?
Motivated.
Pretty good?
Besides Scotch tape,
Yes.
what's your other, like, number one, if you're doing this?
It's lighting. I am the lighting police. I mean, honestly, what people waste on lighting, I feel like electricians are not lighting for something. So if you leave it up to an electrician, they'll get you the power, but they don't always get you. They might get you to save you money by just saying, oh, I got this great picture, this great bulb, and they put it up, and it's like, it doesn't do what you need it to do.
That's your next shot, right?
It's tomorrow at 4. Yeah. Literally, they asked me, they said, what are your 3 things that can help someone with their business model? I said, signage, lighting, and color. All right, and if, we have a booth here, or booth 223, I think, on the far right with that arrow that's lit up. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be here for the next 3 days. And I have my cards up here or at the. But thank you very much. Thank you.